Yo, what is poppin', my guys? It is your boy Ashley, and today we are going to be trying out something a little bit different. Now, first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Trip from the DUEL server, as well as DOS from the PokeTube server, Texas Man Gaming from all sorts of different servers, Matt O'Shea, obviously of Matt O'Shea fame, Odds, commissioner of the IBA. I think Tenacious Fox from the IBL, not in the IBL, but in the IBL server. I believe he's an analyst. And just in general, anybody that offered or did help me work on OBS, because that is the only way that this is going to be possible. I was capping out at about 5 frames per second whenever I tried to record anything, actually topping out at 1.2 trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it seems that we're actually currently rocking about 30 FPS. So huge shouts out to those guys for helping me delve into the settings and find out what exactly was wrong with my computer. Now, this is looking pretty basic right now, this layout. This is just kind of a tester to see if I can actually record this. So I'm actually not really going to be doing a whole lot on this thing today, other than probably just trying to grab a ranked game or two. We're going to be using my Sylvans deck, which I will give you a quick breakdown of in a second as soon as I get my character. Obviously, we got to use my Valentine because that's my girl, and plus her ability is really nice for what we're going to be working with as well, which is actually this Sylvans deck. So if you guys don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, I will just give you a very brief overview of what the point of this deck is. A lot of these cards have card effects which allow you to excavate, and what excavating means, it means that it allows you to take the top card off of your deck and look at it. If it is a plant type monster, it goes to the graveyard. Now, that does sound kind of bad if you don't understand the card effect aspect of this, but we have lots of different cards. Like, for example, we have the Sylvan Komushurumo, which is when it's flipped face up, you can choose 1 to 5 cards and then excavate that many cards from the top of your deck. And if this card is excavated, you can remove one of their spell or trap cards from the field, right? So you start off the game, let's say you start with one of these in your hand and you put it face down. When they attack you and flip it, it's not your turn, and you automatically get to excavate 5 cards. Now, the effects of the other cards is what makes this great. This is a Rose Lover right here. It is a plant type monster, so it does count as something to be excavated. And when this is excavated, it allows you to summon any monster from your hand, meaning that we can summon something like this. This is an 8-star monster, meaning that it can only be summoned. You have to tribute summon 2 monsters, so you have to have 2 monsters on the field and sacrifice them in order to summon this monster. But with the effect of Rose Lover, as long as the Rose Lover gets into the graveyard, you can very easily get this card out and summon it without having to use a special summon. So you can go from no monsters on the field to 2 monsters on the field, one of them being a level 8 with 2700 attack. So this card is really nice. Its card effect isn't as great as some of the other ones, but it's definitely essential to the deck. As you can see, you can excavate the top card of your deck, and if it is a plant type monster, send it to your graveyard, and if you send it to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. So this pairs really well with the effect of excavating this card, where if you check the top card of your deck and it is this card, you send it to the graveyard, and then once you are done excavating, you look at the top 3 cards from the top of the deck and you place them back in the deck in any order. So let's say that you look and you have a spell card. I have 4 spell cards down here. You have a spell card that you would like in your hand. You can rearrange those cards so that when you excavate with the Hermitry or with another one of these cards, it will draw that card into your hand, giving you the card. So that being able to look at the next 3 cards you're going to draw is such a big advantage for a deck that relies on top decking cards and sending them to the graveyard. Now, some other things that I would consider essential for this particular deck strategy would be the Sylvan Marsh Leaf. This is very important because when it's not a super strong monster, and when you play it, You only can excavate 1 to 2 cards, but its excavation effect is what's very important. You don't want this card in your hand. You want to draw this card. You want to excavate this card from your deck to the graveyard because it allows you to destroy 1 face-up monster. I'm not sorry, not even 1 face-up monster. It allows you to destroy 1 monster on the field. So that is such a huge advantage to this particular deck because the strongest monster in this deck is going to be the Sylvan Hermitry, and I'm currently not running any spell or trap cards to boost my attack, and I'm not running an ability to boost my attack either. So essentially everything you want to take out needs to be under that amount of attack. So if your opponent just happens to summon something that has a higher attack than that, you can always rely on the effects of the Sylvan Martial Leaf to come through and take out your opponent. Another one that I would consider essentials for this particular deck is going to be the World Caraweight Champion. Now, the reason that I like this card a lot is because if this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 plant type monster from your hand or on the field and special summon this card to the field. And with 1900 attack at a 4-star, that is really, really solid. So one of the main reasons I like this card is because let's say you draw into one of those Rose Lovers in your hand, the card that allow you to special summon one of these other monsters, you can sacrifice the Rose Lover to summon the Carrot Warrior. Then once the Rose Lover gets into your grave, you can use the Rose Lover to summon a Hermitry or one of these other higher level monsters we're going to talk about in a moment, and then still special summon from your hand 1 card. So with the correct lineup, you can go from having 0 monsters to 3 of your most powerful monsters on the field at any given time. And that's why this strategy is so effective in my opinion, because once you get that ball rolling with excavating and get that kind of that Sylvan water slide rolling, it is very, very hard to stop. Just the rest of these are more tech picks than anything. You can kind of play as you want. A lot of people play more than 1 copy of this particular card because it's nice. It's a strong monster. You can tribute it. So let's say you play your Komushumo, the one that excavates 5 cards. Let's just say you play that in the defense position and they attack it. Well, a lot of the times in the early game, they're not going to have a monster that can take it out, so that thing will just be sitting on the field, basically useless because it has 100 attack. All it's going to be doing is sitting there. You can take advantage of that by playing this card, tribute summoning that one to the graveyard, and then having this card out, being able to excavate 1 to 3 cards per turn, as well as if it gets sent to the graveyard, you are allowed to take 1 plant type monster in your graveyard and put it back in your deck. So that is definitely something that should be of a concern to people that play Sylvans, and that is the fact that you can burn through your deck very, very quickly. So having cards to place those monsters back into your deck, especially since a lot of the strategy in this deck is dependent on the card effects of these cards, I definitely highly recommended to pick up a card such as this one. A lot of people run 2. I personally run 1, and then also run a copy of the Sylvan Lotus Swain. It has a little bit less attack, but as you can see, it has kind of the opposite. Ooh, I think I accidentally added. No, okay, we're good. It actually kind of has the opposite effect of the other card, the Guardioak, we just talked about, because the Guardioak specializes in excavating cards. It can excavate 3 cards per turn, instead not just when it summons, but it can do it every turn, and then it returns 1 card to your hand if excavated. Well, the Lotus Swain can excavate the number of cards from the top of the deck equal to the cards that the opponent controls. So that's a little bit variable. I don't like playing cards that rely on your opponent's hand or your opponent's decisions, because that's just putting the game in the hand of your opponent. But this one is not really in the same line of that, just because it depends on how many cards they play. Now obviously they can have 0 cards on the field, but more times than not in competitive, in ranked play, your opponents are going to have at the very least 1 to 2 cards on the field, which is kind of the standard, I guess, of what you would want to be pulling with a high level monster from this particular deck. But I think that it really shines in the fact that it has a very solid excavation effect. So if you excavate this card and send it to your graveyard, it actually allows you to put 5 Sylvan cards from your graveyard back into your deck. So it is a more reliable way to beef your deck back up after a lot of excavations, and it works. This card in particular I would not be running if I was not running this card right here, which is Magical Merchant. As you can see, it has pretty terrible defense and attack, but its flip effect is fantastic. Once this card is flipped face up onto the field, you can excavate cards from the top of your deck until you excavate a spell or trap card, and then add that card to your hand. Now, this is amazing, in my opinion. This is a card that I personally think that if you have it, you have no reason not to tech it into the Sylvan archetype. Obviously, I don't have as much experience with other people. I don't have experience playing these higher tier decks. I haven't played Aliens very much. I have barely played SSA or any of these other high level decks that I hear people talking about. But from my experience, I went using this exact deck list. I went 32 and 8 in my first season of ranked duels, going from rookie 1 all the way up to gold 4 before the ranked reset, over the course of about a week and a half. So this deck is very, very strong for new players, and I only spent about 4,000 gems to get it. I guess before we go into that part, I'll finish up talking about the deck. The reason I like Magical Merchant is because by only running 4 spell cards, you are really boosting your chances to start rolling those things you need. And this is one of those cards that if you're in a pinch, can really absolutely just shut the game down and give you the win in one turn very, very easily. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the final 4 parts of this, which is the spell cards. Now, see, Dark Core is a card that I really like. This is another one of those cards that you can pull from the Forest Guardian set that I pulled the rest of these cards for, almost all of these cards from. And this allows you to discard 1 card and then banish 1 target on the field that is face up. Now, please remember that the card has to be face up for it to be banished. I've messed that up a lot, but the reason I like this card is because it allows you to get the Carrot Warrior and the Rose Lover from your hand to the graveyard while also taking out one of their monsters. So this is a good card for if you get a bad hand. If you start off with, I had a hand the other day where I started off with 3 Rose Lovers and a Carrot Warrior, and then immediately drew into Dark Core and still managed to win the game just because this card allowed me to get the Carrot Warrior into my graveyard, which I could then special summon, putting the Rose Lover in my graveyard, and then I drew into a Hermitry next turn and got to play that. So this is just a card that I feel keeps your hand rotating. That's the one thing that I say that this deck is at a disadvantage of, is that it doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities to pull cards straight from your deck into your hand. You do have the effect of the Hermitry, but that's not an easy card to get onto the field unless you can get the Rose Lovers cascading the way that you would like for them to. So having a spell card that allows me to kind of shuffle around the things in my hand a little bit is very advantageous, especially for this. Hey, Trunon is shout out to Deneki for letting me know about how to play this card. I had a couple of questions about it, and if you were trying to play Duel Links and you have this card, this is the win condition card. This is, I have set all of my cards out, and all I have to do is take out the 1 monster he has and do damage to get rid of everything. This returns all set spell and trap cards on the field to the user's hand. So it really is just a way to say, oh, all those spells and trap cards, go ahead, pick those up for me for a second, and then you take the game before they have the chance to activate them again. This is very important in competitive play, where a lot of the more competitive decks do rely on card effects as well as magic and trap cards. So I feel like this doesn't handle the card effect aspect of it, but it definitely does a great job of handling the spell and trap card aspect of it, which is very important for me, considering that I only have 2 copies of Komoshrumo, where most people will actually technically say that you should run 3. The final spell card that I have is Enemy Controller. This is just a very standard card that a lot of people run. I probably could afford to run more copies in my deck, but I'm too big of a fan of Dark Core. Originally, before I pulled Dark Core, I was running Enemy Controller, 2 copies of Enemy Controller. But as I said, Dark Core just helps a lot. This lets you target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and change that target's battle position. And then you can also tribute one, or either or. And then you can tribute 1 monster, take 1 face-up monster they control, and take control of it until the end phase. So really, all I have to say about just this in general is that this deck is a lot of fun to use. The box that this came with, the box that these cards come in came out I think 3 weeks ago, and this archetype has already been declared a tier 1 archetype. So if you want to get into Duel Links, now would not be an ideal time, just because the game has been around for so long and so many people are already so far ahead. But it's not a bad time. I spent, I think, probably about 4,000 gems building this deck right here, and I would say that at least 1,000 of those was spent trying to pull this magical merchant right here, which actually is from a totally different box. All of these other ones come from a box with 80 packs in it, which means it's a mini box, meaning that you have a much higher chance to actually pull the cards that you need to pull. And other things like the Rose Lover are attained at the card trader. So all 3 of those, I just had to be patient and wait for the card trader. All the rest of these, except for this one and the enemy controller, were all pulled from the Forest Guardians box, and the enemy controllers were both achieved with secret. I don't know what SR stands for actually. Super rare, secret rare. I'm actually not sure, but those are easily found with tickets given to you by either playing ranked or by playing. Or just by playing through the game for your first time. So, I forgot to talk about my ability, but I will go more in depth with that. I'm actually not going to play any ranked today. I am just going to go ahead and try to show you. I've got a lot going on my screen right now, as you can see, just because there's a lot of stuff to click on in this game, and there's an event going on currently with Tristan that I think is really funny. But we are just going to go here, and we're actually going to do an event duel because I have 641 crystal fruit. As you can see here, we are going to play Jesse and his crystal dragon. So his deck really revolves. It has a lot of cards used as trap cards or things. So he has a lot of monsters whose card effects give them the ability to take a card, a spell or trap slot when they get destroyed or should be destroyed. So I think this game in particular will kind of give you guys the idea of how to run Sylvans, at least my iteration of Sylvans. And I'm really proud of how the deck came along. Shout out to people like Jade Hex, people like Gregulator, Zaneki, pretty much everybody in the Duel Links server has been absolutely fantastic in helping me not only find a deck that I would be comfortable playing, but building that deck and encouraging me to play. And I'm really happy with the process that I made. So I decided I wanted to make a Duel Link video, see how it went, and I can already see that I'm actually going to have to adjust this in OBS a little bit. There we go. Still not ideal. I'm glad I didn't play online. Nice. The fun of finding new things to record. Am I right, guys? Alright, so it's a little hard for you to see, but as you can see, my ability Aroma Strategy allows me to see the next card I am going to draw. Now this right here is huge for Sylvan decks, right? Because the whole, I don't want to say draw and sound cheesy, but the whole draw to using this deck is utilizing and abusing the cards coming next. Now obviously this is not the best ability. I'm currently working toward getting the ability Restart, which allows you to refresh your first hand, which I would have activated in this turn so that I could have tried to get one of the Como Shrumos, because you always want to try and start with one of those. But instead I am actually going to play a World Carrot Weight champion, because I don't think, if I remember correctly, he has anything in his deck that can take out my Carrot Weight champion. And if I can live it to the next turn, I can go ahead, throw out this Sylvan Lotus Swain, tribute, I almost said evolve, I played too much Pokemon, tribute the Carrot Warrior to the graveyard, and then sacrifice one of my Marsh Leafs to resummon the Carrot Warrior as I draw into a Hermitry, and hopefully get the ball rolling, trying to get some Rose Lovers in the graveyard so that I can activate. But as of right now, we can't attack on our first turn, so we're just going to end turn and see what Mr. Jesse Anderson has to do. So here he is going to play his Crystal Beast Topaz Tiger, which has 1600 attack points, and as you can see, he has an ability that's going to add, so that's okay. That's obviously not ideal, but I'll show you what we can do. We can go ahead and draw our Hermitry. right here. And let's see what our next card is. Okay, that is going to be a Guardioak. So I really don't want to, I don't feel obligated to draw into that, but we can. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this, or I'll tell you what we can do. This is actually not bad at all. We can sacrifice one of these marsh leaves right here. We can resurrect one of our carrot warriors. Alright, and now we can sacrifice that same carrot warrior to summon this right here. So as you can see there, normally I would not be able to play that monster because I would have no monsters on the field, but being able to special summon that allows you to get more powerful monsters out on the field. And we are also able to activate the effect here. Since we do already have a 1 tribute monster on the field, I guess it is a 5-star monster or a 5 to 6-star monster. I don't mind excavating this and sending this little boy right back into the deck, because that is basically going to, oh, I didn't know it went, I forgot that it went to the top. That's really unfortunate, because I would have much rather excavated that later, but that's just the way she goes. And now we are going to be able to take this out and also withstand any attack that he kind of wants to go for next turn. So see, as you can tell, he went back here. If we can start getting the excavation train rolling and maybe knock that out with a Como Shrumo, just to show how that is activated, because you kind of can see how the excavating works. Right now I can only do 1 card. Now I'll be able to do 2 cards, as you'll see at the beginning of this turn, as we are going to draw into this right here. I'm not sure if I want to play any of these yet, just because I'll tell you what I can do. Well, first, okay. So something we could technically do here is we could sacrifice one of these marsh leaves, resurrect our carrot warrior, and then play a marsh leaf. But ideally we can get some other things going on for us, so I'm just going to start excavating with my Lotus Swain. We do send that one of those to the graveyard, but since we have one in hand, I'm not as worried about it. And now we are going to get the opportunity to see the next 3 cards in our deck, which is perfect. So what I want to do is I want to take both of those right there, and I'm going to send both of those to the graveyard by activating this Sylvan Martian Leaf, right? Or Sylvan Marsh Leaf. So we're going to go right here. We are going to excavate 2 cards. Easy, easy. We're going to send both of those Rose Lovers to the grave. And now, let me show you how it's done. We are going to go ahead. We are going to activate the effect of that Rose Lover. We are going to special summon our Sylvan Hermitry, which is a very powerful boy. Go ahead and do that right there. Special summon. We're not going to use its effect because it would be a waste of time, as we see that we have an enemy controller on the top there, and since it has to be a plant type to activate the draw effect, it really would just be a waste of time to activate the effect. Now this is 1500, this is 1900. We can very easily just sacrifice this marsh leaf on the field and special summon our carrot warrior just like that. So just basically, we at the beginning of this turn, we really only had our middle guy. Now we have 3 of our most powerful monsters on the field. We can go ahead and attack right here. 700 defense. I'm not sure if that card has an effect or anything. Gains 300 attack for each continuous spell card. Okay, so it did gain some attack, but it was in defense position, so that didn't really matter. And we are going to be able to very easily take the victory here by attacking his life points directly. And I feel like that was a pretty solid showcase on what Sylvans can do. Now, if y'all enjoyed this video, really the only reason I did this video was not only to test if I could record and have it come out the way that I would like it to, but also just to give a quick explanation of the deck that I will be using in upcoming videos. I plan, if this goes well, if you see this on the channel, you can expect this to be coming, and that will be best of 3s with coaches, with Pokemon coaches that I've gotten pretty close with. Like, I plan on doing one with Matt O'Shea, as well as probably Deneki. I think I'm going to be doing one with as well. I'm going to try and twist Aaron's arm into getting back into Duel Links so that we can do a best of 3 for the channel, as well as possibly streaming if it can maintain a stream, or if I would rather do it on the channel, still not sure yet. Just some form of ranked laddering, just because I really do enjoy laddering in this game a lot more than I enjoy laddering in other games. but that may just be the new factor of it. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed. If you do, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that bullshit, because this is something definitely a little bit different than what you're normally used to seeing on the channel, and I definitely want the feedback. So until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.